Donald Trump's allies thought Canada would fold the second they started making threats over liquor bans and trade talks. Thought all it would take was a few tariffs, a few public demands, and Ottawa would quietly fall back in line. But then Mark Carney stepped in front of the cameras and said the one thing Washington did not expect to hear. We are not sitting here taking notes and taking instruction from the United States. And suddenly this stopped sounding like a trade negotiation and started sounding like the beginning of a political rupture between Canada and Trump's America. Watch what happened.
I don't think that was an exact quote of what I said yesterday, so I'm not going to associate myself with the way you framed it. There are a series of trade issues between the countries. Most of the issues have been raised by the United States, either in terms of things they want to see changed in Canada. There are a series of tariff measures the United States has put in place which are in violation of the existing agreement. The tariffs on steel, the tariffs on aluminum, the tariffs on automobiles, the tariffs on forest products. Those are not consistent with the existing agreement. We look forward to sitting down. We have an exchange around these issues, both in terms of understanding what I'll use their term, they often use, trade irritants, a series of measures, which would include actions that have been taken in response to the American measures, such as the provincial actions. These are provincial actions.
What do you think about this debate? Drop your opinion in the comments below and join the discussion on what really happened here.
With respect to alcohol on the shelves. I mean, you've got to remember, the client here are the provincial liquor authorities. They make the decisions what they put on their shelf. And they make those decisions based on a series of considerations, and they've taken that into account. So our work is as follows. With respect specifically to the negotiations, is to be prepared on all of the issues to provide our perspective and address, to negotiate in the round on all of these issues. This is a review process that's baked into the existing framework of the agreement, and as well to see where there are opportunities where we can be stronger together, and there are a number of those. We have those discussions as a whole. You prefaced your question where you don't know where this talk of a quote entry fee. I don't know where the talk of a quote entry fee is from. Certainly not coming from me. It's not language I've ever used. And it's not language I've ever heard from the President of the United States. So, look, we're ready. We have an exchange. It's more than ready. There's exchange on both understanding the issues and on opportunities for cooperation. It's a negotiation. These things have their own rhythm, and they also have what's happening above the surface and what's happening below the surface, and we'll see in the fullness of time.
Follow-up? Yeah, on that same vein, I guess my confusion stems from the fact that the Americans are saying, not really a negotiation, we're laying out what we need to see Canada do, and Canada's not meeting us there.
That's a negotiation. That's a position. See, Yana, there's two parties in a negotiation. One, we're not sitting here taking notes, okay, and taking instruction from the United States. Understanding their position, understand where it's in Canada's interest, when in our joint interests to be stronger together. And this is a government that can do many things at one time. We set up, to go back to today, we set up Build Canada Homes. It literally was set up in September. The legislation to give it all of its authorities is still working its way through the House. We're glad that we have a majority now. We can move that forward more rapidly. We're already in a position where 10,000 plus homes catalyzed by Build Canada Homes are either under these agreements are in place. We've got 1,400 homes either under construction or will be in the next 2 months. We're doing that plus large projects. We're doing it plus providing a boost and a bridge to Canadians. We're doing that while continuing, despite unprecedented trade measures being taken by the United States. We're the second fastest growing economy in the G7 with the best fiscal position, with 20 new deals signed with other countries around the world. So we're going to do multiple things at the same time. We have enough room. We're ready to go into detailed negotiations. We're also ready to wait if that's what has to.
Mark Carney just fired back at Donald Trump's allies in one of the most aggressive trade exchanges Canada has seen in years. What started as a question about U.S. liquor bans quickly turned into a direct rejection of Washington's pressure campaign, and Carney was clearly done pretending Canada is just going to sit quietly and take orders from the United States. The reporter came in armed with statements from Trump trade officials demanding Canada remove restrictions on American alcohol and dairy products if trade talks are going to move forward. And the implication was obvious. America believes Canada should make concessions first before negotiations even begin. But Carney immediately pushed back and shut the framing down before the question was even finished. The moment the reporter suggested Canada needed to do more to get Americans to the table, Carney snapped back saying, "There's two parties in a negotiation. We're not sitting here taking notes and taking instruction from the United States." That was the line that changed the entire tone of the exchange, because this was not the usual careful diplomatic language politicians use when talking about the U.S. relationship. This sounded like a leader openly signaling that Canada is finished with the old dynamic where Washington dictates the terms and Ottawa falls in line afterward. And then Carney went even further. He started listing the tariffs the United States has imposed on Canada: steel, aluminum, automobiles, forest products, and repeatedly called them violations of the existing trade agreement, not trade disagreements, not concerns. Violations. That word matters because Carney was basically accusing the United States of breaking the rules while simultaneously demanding concessions from Canada. And you could hear the frustration building every single time the reporter tried to frame the alcohol restrictions as the main problem. Carney practically laughed at the idea that liquor shelf decisions are somehow comparable to massive U.S. tariffs, crushing Canadian industries. At one point, he literally said, "You know what's an irritant? 50% tariffs on steel, 50% tariffs on aluminum." That was not subtle. That was Carney openly mocking the American position and flipping the pressure back onto Trump's allies. But the most important moment came near the end when Carney delivered what may become the defining line of this entire trade fight. "I do not get up first thing in the morning and think about the United States. I think about Canadians." That line hit hard because it completely reframed the debate. For months, the conversation has been about how Canada should respond to American pressure, American tariffs, American demands. But Carney just made it clear that his government wants Canadians focused on building economic independence instead of obsessing over appeasing Washington. And then came the real warning shot. Carney said the era of deeper integration with the United States is over. He said nostalgia is not a strategy, hope is not a strategy. And he openly acknowledged that things are never going back to the way they were before. That is a massive statement coming from a Canadian leader because for decades the entire Canadian economic model was built around close integration with the United States. But now Carney is openly talking about diversification, independence, and preparing Canada for a future where America may no longer act like a reliable partner. And honestly, you could feel the tension in the room because the reporter kept trying to pull Carney back toward reassurance and diplomacy, but Carney kept steering the conversation right back toward sovereignty and leverage. This did not sound like a government preparing to cave. This sounded like a government preparing Canadians for a long economic and political standoff with Donald Trump's America. And whether people agree with Carney or not, one thing became painfully obvious during this exchange. Canada is no longer speaking to the United States like a smaller partner asking for permission. The tone has changed completely. Drop a comment and tell me this. Is Mark Carney finally standing up to Trump's pressure tactics? Or is this trade fight about to spiral into something much bigger between Canada and the United States?